Hey there, how you doing? Today I'm going to talk about how to attack the net player. So, it's really interesting because I was thinking about saying how to defend against net attack. But here's the interesting thing. I think if you reframe it and you say I'm going to attack the net person, then it's a different mindset that you have, because then you're feeling I'm under attack, right? Then you're going to feel more pressure. And that's what they want you to feel, right? But what does the net person fear? What's player at the net? What do they fear the most? Okay. They probably fear being passed cleanly the most. But it doesn't have to be on the first shot. And we're going to get into that, right? So don't, whatever you do. So you want to pass them cleanly as much as you can. But there's a right way to do that and there's a wrong way to do that. And then probably the second most important thing that they fear is they fear the lob, because they came in, now they're going to have to run back and hit an overhead. Maybe their overhead's iffy. Maybe they're not certain about that. And if they don't have a great overhead, they are not a great net player. So you can expose their lack of net game by exposing their overhead. And we'll get into that more. And then probably the next thing that they are most afraid of is missing their volley, because then it just feels like they ran up there for nothing. So what we want to do is do those three things, but there are a lot of subtleties for how you set that up. It's not as obvious as you might think. All right, so remember, I have this book, Tennis Strategies 101. It's on Amazon. This is Tennis Strategies 201 and 301. Parts of this are going to be broken up into each book. So, if you are a 3-0 to a 4-0 player, and then you're also wanting to go to higher levels, this is a great talk for you. All right. So, the most important thing about the net player is they want to put pressure on you, and they don't want you to pass them cleanly. Right now, one of the most important things to do when somebody's serving and volleying, and by the way, I was at one time a full-time serve and volley player. I serve and volleyed almost exclusively first and second serve and played at a 5-0 level, which is, not world class, but decent. Some opponents could get me to only serve and volley on my first serve. Some opponents could get me to serve and volley 80% of the time, and then sometimes I would stay back. So, that was predicated on their ability to return my serve. So that's the first part of it, is how well do you return, and are you playing somebody who's serve and volleys, right? And then the next part of it is, how do they come to the net? I've also coached a few junior players who were full-time serve and volleyers, and almost all of my high school kids, very few of my high school kids could not serve and volley. Almost all of them learned to serve and volley to some extent and could do it, a couple of points in a match, or, did it regularly. So I know what I'm talking about here. Anyway, take a moment to press like, subscribe, all that stuff. Spend your social digital currency if you like what's happening here. And then do that with everybody. I mean, if there's a video you like, put like on it. You're helping grow the game. It really helps. The algorithms love it. You're promoting tennis when you hit the like button, and especially when you write a comment. So I want to hear comments and questions and whatnot. All right. So let's start with the standard approach shot player. All right. So how are they coming in? Do they come in on a penetrating forehand drive to your backhand? Do they come in on a slice down the line to your forehand? Do they come on a slice, to your backhand? How are they coming in? That's an important thing to know. But here are a couple of general rules that will really help you. This is like 201 instruction right here. Is go to take the ball at the closest place to the net as you can, right? Now, I didn't say take the ball on the rise. I'm very specific not to say take the ball on the rise. But when you're hitting that first passing shot, go and meet the ball as far forward as you can comfortably. So don't put yourself under more pressure. And you might actually have to back up. So whatever means you're hitting that shot, at the closest that you can to the net, because the number one thing you want to do is you want to take time away from them. You don't want them to pressure your time and space by pushing you further back and opening up more space for their volley. All right. So that's the first thing. Come forward. All right. Now, your shot, you want to hit it to, hold on a second. Got a little ginger tea here. You want your first approach shot to go low and down the line, and you want it to stretch your opponent out. It is a mistake to actively try to pass the opponent cleanly on the first shot. It might happen accidentally, but your first objective should be to stretch the opponent out. Unless you just got to have a really easy one. It's just right there and you poke it past them. All right, fine, right? So this is all based on contingencies. But in general, if you're playing somebody who's any good at the net, they're hitting a good enough approach shot that you would be ill-advised to try to pass them clean. And keep in mind, here's what the statistics say. The data says the most common thing that happens when somebody comes to the net is that the person at the baseline misses the passing shot. So don't miss. That's really important, because if you make them volley every time, then you're putting pressure on their volley. They will have to volley every time. But if you're hitting in the net or you're hitting wide because you're trying to be so fine to try to pass them clean right down the line, exactly, you're giving them a free point. So don't give up anything for free. Now, in the perfect blend between offense and defense, what you want to do, you probably want to aim about 2 or 3 feet inside the sideline, and get the ball low. Because if you get that player stretched out and low, then you open up the court and you put them in a position where they have to volley up instead of down into the court. You're giving them some angles, so you have to look out for the little drop shot, angled drop shot. But you get them down here, and then you'll have a really big opening on the other side, and that's where you're going to be able to pass them cleanly. You're far more likely to successfully pass them cleanly when you do it as a 2-shot combination. All right. Now, if somebody's serving and volleying, sometimes it's more difficult to try to get your return to go down the line. And I had one of my favorite matches of all time was in the finals of our section tournament. And I had a player playing number 2 singles, and he was a kid who didn't really trust me a lot when he was a freshman, but now this is his sophomore year and he's starting to trust me a little bit more. And this was the final match that he was going to play for me, because it was my last year coaching that team. Well, anyway, so he's won the first set, but then all of a sudden in the second set, the other kid started serving and volleying all the time. And so that kid actually won the second set, and now we're going into a third. And I told him, he's like, what do I do? He's like freaking out. I'm like, okay, well, make that first shot down the line and try to keep it low. And if you can't do that, then keep it low down the center of the court, because then you'll take away some of his angles. So, it's a good second choice to go low down the middle of the court, because it takes away the angles that the volleyer could use to hit a winner. So either way, But down the line's a little bit better because then you stretch them out and you make an opening. All right. So 2-shot combination. All right, that's enough on that. And like I said, that's the number one fear, that they're going to be passed clean. So you do that, you're going to pass them clean more often. All right, now the next thing that you want to do is you want to keep them, you want to lob them, right? So you're going to have to work on your lob. And now there's a funny thing psychologically that happens. So when you think about lobbing somebody at the net, then you're probably more likely to lob it right where they like it. So don't do that, Now, so a better thing to think, because it gives you an objective that works better, is to lob over them, over their backhand side to the backhand corner of the court. If you can't do that, then lob all the way to the center. And if you can't do that, lob to the corner of the forehand, which can be surprisingly effective, because if you get it up and over them, then they have to move all the way diagonally backwards to go get that. So it's okay to hit a few lobs that go out long. That's far better than giving them a short lob that gives them confidence and some practice on some easy ones in live play. Yeah, you don't want that. Take the point out of their hands by lobbing far enough that even if your ball goes 2 feet out, then that's okay. You're going to get the range, and it won't hit it quite so much next time. And then you'll start dropping some balls on the baseline. And even if they have a great overhead, if you can lob over them all the way to the baseline, there are very few people in the world that can jump up and hit that. When I was at the top of my game and I was in the weight room all the time and just really doing incredibly well at the net, I felt it took a lob that was going to land within the last 3 feet of the court to get me not to take it out of the air. And that's an important thing, right? So you have to be able to hit overheads. But then, you lob them successfully a few times. What's going to happen? They're going to hesitate to come in. They're going to be a lot more careful about what kind of ball to come in on, because they're going to have to make sure that they really get you on defense before they approach. But if you never lob them, then they're probably going to keep coming in, just as much. And then, if they miss a couple of overheads, then you probably want to keep going with that. You want to make the lob your first shot and make them prove that they can hit overheads. All right. So now the other thing is, another thing that you can do is you can hit the ball right at them. And this is kind of a nice surprise move. So especially if their approach shot is not particularly good, or if they hit a volley that's kind of weak and it sits up, come in. And then if you're playing a right-handed player, aim for their right hip or their right shoulder, because that's the hardest thing to defend, is that in there. So you kind of have to really look at that. You have to look at their right hip and go right at it. And I call that popping their bubble, because they have this range around them where they can volley nicely, and they can even probably go like carve a backhand and whatnot. But there's this little place right there in the middle, good target. And if you go right there, then you've got them feeling under attack, right? So if when you pull somebody over and you pass them on the next one, and when you lob them, and when you come right at them to their right hand side, of course, if they're a lefty, you're going to go to the left side, right? Then you have them feeling under attack, and that's going to make them a lot less likely to want to come in. Now, another way you can do this. Well, so now here are a couple other things to consider too, right? And maybe this should have been first in the whole thing, but keep your shots deep. the deeper you make your shots, the less likely they are to successfully come in. And when you give them depth, then that's harder for them to take away your time and space, which is what coming to the net mainly is. It's a time and space play. It can be part of the disruptor strategy. It can also be part of pressuring somebody's movement. It all kind of depends on the style of the person coming to the net. But generally, pure power players are not often coming to the net, and those that are just running around hitting one more ball, that's probably the worst place for them. They don't want to be at the net. All right, so keep the ball deep. But if they're really good at getting you to hit short balls, then what you want to do is you want to make sure that your short balls don't go in the center of the court, go to the sides, right? So, if you can get your ball, to go cross court to either direction, or even, the select down the line but short shot, and get it like that so that the player has to zigzag in. And then finally, what you can do is you can intentionally hit very short and bring them in on your terms. Then they come in off balance. And when you can get them to come in off balance, then you have more say so as how that point is going to be played. All right. So those are a few ways to attack the net person. But consider this, that, approximately 63% of points are going to be won by the net person. Which brings up another great point. If you want another way to keep the other player from the net is to get there first. Go to the net before they do and put the pressure on them, because if they're pressuring you, they probably feel just as much or more pressure when they're the ones having to hit the passing shot. But the most important thing is to reduce their effectiveness, because overall, serve and volleyers are making about 2/3 of the points, about 67% of the points on serve and volley, right? That's pro level. But even lower level, because the surprise is so great and it freaks people out, you can make a very high percentage at lots of different levels just because of the surprise tactic. Overall, net play is getting about 63% win percentage. So if somebody's used to winning lots of points, way over 60%, and you can get them under 60%, then you can start to whittle away at their confidence. And when you start whittling away at it, then pretty soon they're not coming to the net as much. I loved being able to serve and volley on first and second serve. If that player has too good of a return of serve for me to come in on second serve, then I just come in on first. That's not my favorite way to play. Now I'm going to have to rally more from the baseline than I want to. I could do it, right? This is part of my plan B, is to be able to do some stuff from the baseline, keep the ball deep and be patient and wait for a short ball to approach on. Mix things up, keep the other player out of their rhythm. But if they're so good that I now can't really serve and volley all the time, then that's less advantageous for me. And I've had some players who I just didn't want to serve and volley at all because their returns were so good, and they were so good at stretching me out. And then they also had the really good, top spin passing shot to finish and beat me cleanly, that, it wasn't worth it for me to continue to play my A game. Right. So that's what you want to do. You want to take someone and make them shift from their A game to their B game and see what they have. Maybe they have nothing. Maybe they have no other way to play than to come to the net a lot. And so they'll just keep coming in, and you'll just keep doing really well against them, better and better as you break them down. All right. So I want to hear your thoughts. Ask me a question, make a comment. What are some other ways that people can attack the net player and reduce their confidence and get them to shift to their B game so that you can gain a greater foothold in that match, and you play your A game against their B game, and then maybe you can get them to go all the way to their C game. But we're going to flesh all this stuff out so that you have all the strategies that you need to be able to do the best you can against the most number of opponents. Obviously, you can't win every match, but you want to win those close ones where the thinking man or the thinking woman is winning these because they're playing smart. All right, so remember to be generous with people because it's tough times out there, and tip your wait staff and your barista and your Uber driver and all that. All right, thanks for watching, and you can go down below in the links and you can see a link to my books and whatnot. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.